I believe Jared Cannonier versus Israel Adesanya is an extremely interesting fight in the middleweight division, and people are arguably writing off Jared Cannonier as an overrated fighter and that he doesn't really stand a chance against Israel. I don't believe this as the case. I believe Jared has a very good chance at beating Izzy and even knocking him out. Now, people will forget this, but the blueprint to beat Israel Adesanya is basically out for the whole world to see. It's been displayed twice in the Robert Whittaker fight and the Jan Blachowicz fight. Now, in these two fights, people do forget this, but the one thing that gave Izzy the most trouble wasn't the leg kicks, wasn't the power of Blachowicz. It was also the wrestling of Blachowicz, but that's another thing, and that happened in the later round when arguably Izzy was tired. The one thing that these two fighters found the most success with was the jab. A very good fundamental jab seems to be the blight of Israel Adesanya. When Izzy would throw a feint or throw a leg kick feint, Robert Whittaker would throw a jab and it would immediately just have Izzy just pause, and he couldn't resume his offense as well as he could have if he didn't get caught with that jab. So a fundamental jab seems to be the best way to beat Izzy, and if you need to defeat Israel, the fundamental jab seems to be the best way to do it. There's also the way of counterpunching, which I don't think Jared has the physicals to do. He can very well do it very well, especially with the power that he has. But I believe feints will also help him out extremely well in this fight. Feints up high to go to the body so Israel's head is there later in the fight will be extremely helpful and will help him in the later rounds. The leg kicks are also something that people do tend to forget. Israel isn't a strong wrestler, and he won't take Jared Cannonier to the ground either, and Jared actually has a pretty good wrestling defense. Now, I do believe Israel will defeat Jared Cannonier, but I do not like people just saying that the fight is a complete mismatch when you really go into it, the fight is much more interesting when you look at it from a better perspective, as both fighters have been defeated in their career before, and Israel arguably lost his last fight. Well, it's not really arguable, it's more of an objective standpoint that he did lose that last fight. If you don't believe he lost, that's on you. I don't really care. Multiple evidence has been shown that he has lost that fight. But I just wanted to give my input on this fight, and I believe it's a lot more interesting than people are